We've got DeWalt's brand new mid-torque, they call it a mid-range impact wrench. This is the DCF891. They're claiming some big numbers with this guy. So stick around, let's check it out. You know what was the first thing we saw when we opened the box to this new DeWalt impact wrench? That right there. That's right. Made in the USA with global components, yes, so we understand that the parts, the motors, and everything else came from somewhere else, and maybe some of the parts came from here, but it was assembled here in the USA. Hey, we're glad to see any of the manufacturing making it back to our shores, so kudos to Stanley Black & Decker for making that happen. This is the brand new DeWalt DCF891. It's their mid-torque, or they're calling it a mid-range impact wrench, but basically it's between an impact or a low torque and a high torque impact wrench, and really becoming the tool of choice for most mechanics, where they know that, hey, 85% of the time, 80% of the time, I can get my work done with this smaller guy. It's a lot lighter, but DeWalt has updated this thing internally. Yes, does it look like the DCF 894 or 896? Absolutely, it sure does, but it is not the same impact wrench. This guy has got a lot different internals, at least that's what we're told. So we're going to take it over, we're going to test it out and see. So let's do that. Let's go over and take a closer look at the features on this, and then we'll go over to the test rig, we'll test it out and see if it actually has the 800 foot-pounds of breakaway torque that they're talking about. Today we've got the brand new DeWalt DCF 891. This is their brand new mid-torque, or they call it their mid-range impact wrench. It's part of their 20 volt XR series. So obviously we're going to get a brushless motor, and it runs on their 20 volt max platform. Now this may look a lot like the DCF 894 or the DCF 896 mid-range impact wrench because it's identical looking to that. However, a lot different guts on the inside. At least that's what they tell us, and we'll be able to figure that out as soon as we hit the test bench. I think the old one was like, the 894 and the 896 was like 300 and something foot-pounds fastening and 400 or 500 foot-pounds of loosening or breakaway torque. This guy is supposed to have 800 foot-pounds of breakaway torque and 600 foot-pounds of tightening torque, and obviously we will test that out. Now this comes with the hog ring style anvil. I believe you can also get it with a detent. Probably a different model number, but as I mentioned, this is the DCF 891. Max RPM on this is going to be 2,000 RPM on speed 3 and 3,100 impacts per minute, or IPM, on speed 3 wide open. Now, I mentioned speed 3. Obviously, we must have 3 power settings. No, we have 4 power settings, and we'll go over that in a moment as well. And so in addition to the brushless motor, the 20 volt max battery, we also get a variable speed trigger, so we can make this go as slow as we want to, or we can speed it up to get that max RPM. And looking at power, we have 4 different power modes, as I mentioned. Now really only, let me let that battery go off, or that light go off. Battery. Anyway, so we have an LED here at the base as well. And by the way, there's 2 different settings on that. We'll go over that in one moment as well. We have 2 buttons. We have a little light button right there, as well as this 3-dot button, which is going to be our 3 different power modes, or 4 different power modes. So you see we have a bolt right there, or if you can't see that, that's a little symbol of a bolt. That's their precision wrench mode. I think they call it precision bolt mode or precision wrench mode. And then we have 1, 2, and 3. Pretty obvious. 1, 2, and 3 are just going to be the power settings on as far as what, how much power you want. And 1's going to be very soft, and as you can tell, that's wide open. And then 2 is going to be a little bit more, and then 3 is going to give you that 100% power. So that's going to be your power settings, 1, 2, and 3. And then the precision wrench mode, that's going to do that auto shut off when you're tightening it. It senses it's tight, it's going to shut the tool down, as well as when you're backing it off, it'll shut the tool down. It may just slow it down, but we'll actually test that once we get over on the test rig as well. The light button here basically cycles from off to low to high. So you can actually turn that button to off, and then even when you pull the trigger, we still do not have an LED light. or you can put it on the first setting. That's going to be low when you pull the trigger, and that's going to last for, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds. And then you can hit the button again, and that's going to give us a high setting. Let me recommend something. If it doesn't bother you, I mean, leave it on high. That drains so little of a battery, it's not going to affect your battery. I doubt very much you run enough screws and bolts in and out to burn up a battery unless you're running a really small battery. We get our very typical DeWalt rubber overmolding that looks the same, whether you're grabbing a drill, an impact wrench, an impact driver. For several years now, they've stayed with this, which why change it? I mean, it's just it's a great looking tool, as well as it holds very well. I mean, very ergonomic in the handle, very easy to hold. Some people may like a little smaller grip or a little larger grip, but this is right there in the middle as far as I'm concerned, and very comfortable to hold. A little bit of rake in the head here, so you can see a little bit of tilt here in the head. I call that a rake, and a little bit of rake on the handle as well. So you get a little lean there and a little lean on the handle. And basically, I've said this before, but if you hold your fist, it's not natural for it to be straight up. That's kind of putting a lot of tension right here on the wrist. Your natural stance, or your natural kind of balling up a fist or holding something, you've got a little bit of an angle here. That's the reason they do that. It actually does twofold. When you're using it on lug nuts or on wheels, that also positions the battery kind of away from the lug nut, so it gives you a little more clearance. But also, as I mentioned, holding that tool straight up and down is more of a natural to have a little bit of an angle in that fist or in that grasp, rather than straight up and down. Now let's take a look here at size and weight. So we'll bring our scales over. Make sure you can see that, and make sure that zeroes out. And we'll throw it on as a bare tool, which really doesn't make a lot of sense to me because you're not doing anything without a battery. 3 pounds, 12 ounces, so it's less than 4 pounds as a bare tool. Throw on the 4 amp hour. This is the DCB240, different than the other 4 amp hour, and I'll go over that in a moment. So 4 pounds, 15 ounces. So it looks like you're picking up a full pound there with that battery. Make sure that zeroes out. Here we go. So let's weigh that tool again. Make sure 3 pounds, 12 and a half ounces. So you're picking up what, a pound and 3 ounces, yeah. So with the 4 amp hour battery, 4 pounds, 15 and a half. With a 5 amp hour, 5 pounds, 2.5 ounces. So a little over 5 pounds that's a pretty typical battery there, that 5 amp hour. That XR 5 amp hour has been around a while, kind of a go-to. You can get that in a lot of kits, so you'll typically see those on a lot of impact wrenches. So still right around a 5 pound tool, a lot lighter than your high torque impact. So that's why people love these mid-torques. That's why mechanics love these mid-torques, because if they can do 85% of their work with a mid-torque, less weight they have to haul around. And then we might as well throw it on there with the Powerstack, which should lighten things up a little more. 4 pounds, 7.5 ounces. So you're looking at a 4.5 pound tool with that Powerstack on there. And by the way, we'll kind of test these on the power side as well. I'm going to throw this DCB 240 battery back on there. And by the way, I mentioned the 4 amp hour batteries being different. This is the DCB 240. This is the DCB 204. And you can see quite a bit of difference. Number one, this is a single pack. So that's one row of 5 cells across the bottom. This has got 2. And you can see how much thinner this is. But if you look at the width of it, it's quite a bit different. Why is that? These are 21700 cells, so a lot longer, beefier, more powerful cells than the 18650s that are in this 4 amp hour. So when you compare 4 amp hour batteries and you compare the 204 to the 240, there's really no comparison. This is going to output a lot more power. I shouldn't say a lot. This is going to output more power and the potential to do a lot more power than the larger or the taller 4 amp hour DCB 204. And again, we'll show you that here on the test rig here shortly. Now, as far as tip to tail, if you will, so front of the Anvil to the back of the tool, right at 7 inches. So right at 7 inches, and then with that 4 amp hour battery, just under 10 inches for the height. Now, one thing you'll notice right away when you pick up this tool, this decal right here. So love to see that even though there's global components involved, this is made in the USA with global material. So They're actually assembling this here in the US, so anything we can do to increase manufacturing here in the States, love to see that. Love to see that from Stanley Black & Decker or from DeWalt on this impact wrench. Well, here we are on the test bench with the DCF891, and we're ready to test this thing. We're pretty typical stuff here. We're going to start at 200 foot-pounds. We're going to go 200, 300, 400, 500, and then jump to these bigger fasteners and go 600, 700, and 800. 800 is the max. Now, our gun here only goes to 700, so we'll probably actually stop at 700, run it through, make sure it takes all those off, and then we got to jump to our bigger torque gun to then start at 800, which we'll probably start here then and then do like 8, 9, and 1,000 if we get that far. We may not get that far. We're going to start with the Powerstack battery. Yeah, the little guy here. We're going to see how much we can output with this. Now, this is rated at 800 foot-pounds of loosening torque or breakaway torque. So we're going to see how far the Powerstack can go. Then we'll throw on our 4 amp hour and then our 5 amp hour to see if we can pick up any more gains. We're starting at 200 foot-pounds. Okay, so we've got our DCF891. We're going to go ahead and throw this. Let's turn this LED off. We're going to throw it in speed 3 or power mode 3. Make sure we're in reverse. And here we go with the Powerstack battery first. 200 foot-pounds. Okay, no problem at all doing 2, 3, 4, and even 500 foot-pounds with the mid-torque or the mid-range impact wrench. So let's jump up to the bigger fasteners. So now 600 foot-pounds with the Powerstack battery. So it took about 7 seconds, but it broke that free. Okay, so right on the 10th second, 9 or 10 seconds, it started breaking that free. So we will let it hammer for 10 seconds, and if it's starting to move, we will go ahead and let that finish. So again, it was starting to move that socket before 10 seconds were up. So 700 foot-pounds with the Powerstack battery. And we still have all 3 bars left on it. So let's get our bigger torque gun, and let's set this torque a little higher. Well, we hit our max with the other high torque gun. It only goes to 700 foot-pounds. So we have to bring out the big dog. This is the Lithium Series 2 torquing solution. This goes all the way up to 3,000 foot-pounds. I don't believe we're going to have an issue. I think we can take it there with this one. So let's put on our 1-inch socket. And we'll start at 800 foot-pounds. Start at 800. Well, that takes us to now 800, 900, and 1,000 foot-pounds with the Powerstack battery on the DCF891. Make sure we're in reverse. We're in mode 3, and we've got a full battery. 800 foot-pounds. This is the claim max, and we're doing it with the Powerstack. Okay, that was impressive. I didn't think it'd do that. So now at 900 foot-pounds. Okay, didn't move. Now, sometimes you'll see that these markers kind of vibrating, but it was just moving back and forth. It had not moved yet. So we're going to jump up now to the 4 amp hour battery. Still a full charge on that, by the way. So going to the 4 amp hour, the DCF840, or the DCB240. I'm sorry, the DCB240 4 amp hour battery, which has the 21700 cells at 900 foot-pounds, and here we go. Yeah, did that with ease. Now we're going to jump to 1000 foot-pounds. No, did not get 1000, so we did 900. We did not do 1000 with the 4 amp hour battery. Going to jump to the 5 amp hour. And let's just check this battery. Yeah, it's still full charge on that one. And full charge on the 5 amp hour. Now keep in mind, bigger battery or larger amp hour, so longer run time, but really power discharge, this battery should have the advantage. So I don't expect this to break free, this 1000 foot-pounds, although we were already hammering on it with the 4 amp hour, so that, you know, basically we're just adding to the time of it hammering. So here we go. 1000 foot-pounds, 5 amp hour battery. Nope, not moving. Again, if you saw the marker, might have been vibrating up and down, but it was not giving a continuous rotation, so we stopped that. So, looks like our max is 900 foot-pounds, and we did it with our 4 amp hour battery. Now I'm going to do one more thing. We retorqued this to 1000 foot-pounds. I'm going to do a 15-second run just to add 5 seconds to it to see if it'll break free. Boy, it did break free, and it did start moving within that 15-second window, but it was barely moving, and then it took a full, I don't know, probably a 30-second run to actually finally break it free. But I did give it to it just because it was starting to move at the 15-second mark. But we're going to call this 900 foot-pounds, which is, again, is extremely good for a little mid-torque impact wrench. Very happy with this DCF891. And exactly what we expected. We expected that 4 amp hour, 21700 cell battery pack to kind of give us that max output. But still, 800 foot-pounds on the Powerstack, very impressive. Although, even on a tool like this, you know, if you wanted to save some weight, that's great. But really, I would like a larger, flatter footprint on an impact wrench. You know, I'd rather keep it slim and not have it, you know, any taller, so I like that kind of single pack design, but I like that wide footprint on that 4 amp hour versus like a Powerstack that I might like on an impact driver. Very impressed with the DCF891. To be able to take that Powerstack battery, this little guy right here, and break free 800 foot-pounds as they claimed in their marketing of 800 foot-pounds breakaway torque. Very impressive. So we tightened those bolts to 800 foot-pounds. It broke it away with the Powerstack. Could not do 900, but bumping up to the 4 amp hour on the tool here, and it did break that away. By the way, again, mentioning that this 4 amp hour battery, the DCB240, is a 21700 cell pack. So bigger cells in this battery versus the DCB204, not the 240, but the 204, which is this 4 amp hour pack, much different. These are full of 18650 cells, much smaller cells in this with less output. So we received the most amount of torque with the 4 amp hour battery, 900 foot-pounds. We did break away the 1000 foot-pounds, but that was after, what, 30 seconds, and it took a solid 15 seconds to start moving that nut, and then another 15 seconds to actually really free it up. What we didn't test was the auto bolting mode, and we can go into that now, and I'll put a socket on here. As you put tension on this, it will stop the tool. So it will start again if you keep holding the trigger. So the precision wrench mode or the auto mode, as we mentioned before, that's for taking lug nuts off, things like that, so you're not slinging lug nuts across the shop. It's also for not over torquing the fastener, so you can put that mode on and then tighten it up and it's going to stop. But don't keep holding your finger on the trigger because it will pick up again and start tightening again. Now, as far as price on this tool, we've seen the price to be somewhere between $229 and $249 for the bare tool. So the tool by itself, somewhere between $230 and $250. Now, a kit with the 4 amp hour battery, like DeWalt actually has on their site with this DCB240, the higher capacity 4 amp hour battery, we really haven't found pricing on that yet. But we have found some pricing on a kit with 2 5 amp hour batteries, and that's going to run you somewhere around $440, $450 for 2 batteries, a charger, and the tool. So you can look at your pricing to be bare tool around $250 and tool with a kit somewhere around $450, maybe a little less once you catch them on sale. We have not really seen this yet to actually hit the shelves. We have heard of some people finding these on some shelves, but DeWalt's supposed to be rolling these out now. We do see some online. Don't know how quick you will get those, but again, as far as kits go, looks a little like you'll have some options maybe, but not sure exactly what those options are going to be. We'll try to have some information in the description. Maybe some stuff will come out in the next couple of days before this releases, and we'll be sure to get that on there. And be sure to keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our video, then give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.